Well, welcome everyone. I see that more attendees join and all the panelists are here. We're in different corners of this world, so this is beautiful what the technology allows us to do. So thanks for joining. Thanks for the panelists who accepted to share their experience of the GI. Thanks so much, Alison. She's next to me. If you see that, so this is how technology plays some tricks sometimes. and so there are some other people in the room. Some Gerard is here, Mihai is here, Christina so is here, and we have people joining from the internet. I see more attendees are joining. We had a good number of people registering. Now who will show up? This is one of the mysteries of hybrid and remote events. We never know until the last minute. So welcome to those who are attending now and joining. I'm not going to speak that much for those who don't know me. I'm Frederick Lucas Conwell. I'm founder and CEO of Growth Resources. And you are all supposed to know what Growth Resources is, but in just a few words. So we're helping company grow and be more purposeful and with different techniques we use. One is the tool, the survey that all of you have taken and are using. And also through this very unique experience we provide for growing leaders and growing people who are involved into the company's growth through the seminar and sessions we have now set. And so that's how we do business and provide all the benefits of it for client companies. So glad and thanks again for all of you joining. I'm going to pass the microphone, which already has to Alison, because this is Alison's mic and my video. So we'll see how it goes with the technology. But Alison,
thank you.
And thank you for monitoring the panel.
Yeah.
Alison has been working with the GI for years now from the East Coast and has done a wonderful job with all your clients and everything you have been doing with the GI. So thanks for accepting to do it.
Yeah.
And it's all yours now.
Okay. So I think it's incredibly important, and it's something that is very difficult to do, to actually bring in people that are using this and have them share their experiences with one another. And I think there's a great value for each of you. And so I'm hoping that you do get value from this time together, because you all know how you're individually using the GRI, but we don't have shared experiences particularly. So I'm hoping that you can get quite a bit out of this. And so what I think is quite interesting is that you're coming from very different places, different size companies, different roles within each one of your organizations. And I think that that's really where a lot of the learning can take place here today. So I'm really encouraged and excited by that. And I thank you for your participation. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to have everyone just start with introductions. And I know that some of you have prepared slides, and I appreciate that quite a bit. It does help to have that context, So I was wondering if Gaetan might start and just maybe, just give us an introduction and tell us kind of, tell us about your company, tell us about you and how you wind up here today, because we're really interested in your story. And then we'll pass it along to the next person. Maybe Marianne, you can go next if that works for you. Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah. Do you hear me?
Yes, yeah? Quite well.
Yeah, perfect. So thank you for inviting me. So I'm Gaëtan, I'm General Manager of Randstad in France. Let me quick introduce myself. I've been working at Randstad for more than 28 years. I began as consultant in Belgium. I'm Belgian, in fact, and moved to France after 10 years. I live in Lyon, south center of France, and manage the Randstad brands in France. Let me now quickly introduce Randstad. So Randstad, perhaps you know, is number one in worldwide in HR service provider. We have a turnover of more than 24 billion euros. So we put a lot of people to work every day, more than 650,000 people So yeah, big company active in all HR activities. About Randstad in France now, we have a turnover of 3.6 billion euros. It's like we put on work every day more than 85,000 people with 900 outlets agencies. Perhaps you know some of our brands. Randstad is our biggest brands, but perhaps you know OZ. It's outsourcing in IT engineering. You know Monster or talent acquisition brands and some other marks. So it's not only temporary staffing, but some other activities. That was for my introduction.
Yeah, nice. Did you have a deck that you might want to share that in addition to what you've just shared, Gaetan?
Sorry, do you have a deck?
Do you have a slide? Did you have any slides that might be informative for us?
No, it was just the only slide for this quick presentation.
Okay, because we did anyone, was I the only one who didn't see them?
No, we didn't
Ah,
see
you didn't see my slide?
No,
Oh,
no.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Is it better so?
Yeah, quite good.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't use Zoom usually, so
I know, it's no problem.
sorry for that. So you just see the numbers I was talking about.
Yeah.
About our big numbers on a global level, and as you see, number one HR provider, and then in France. France is a big market for us. It's the second market in the world, so it's very important for us, our French activities. And as I told you, some of brands we have in the group, and Randstad is the biggest one. It's temporary staffing. We also do the recruitment, perm recruitment, but we also do some activities in outsourcing with OZ, Yacht, and you in United States, of course, you know Monster or HR sites. So
yeah. So it's strictly HR, is that correct?
yeah.
Yeah.
All about HR, but only HR indeed.
Yeah, that's huge. Thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions for him before we move on? Any of the other panelists curious or have questions? All right, thanks so much. So Marianne, would you like
Sure.
to, you can just, oh, that's perfect.
Yes.
Let's get on.
Let me share my screen.
Okay.
It should be working now, right?
Yes, it's beautiful.
Perfect. So first about myself, so I'm Marianne Stenzel. I'm based in Munich, Germany. I'm working at UiPath since February 2020. I am the HR director for the Central and Eastern Europe since then. I've got more than 15 years working experience in HR in international startups, but also in bigger groups, and always mostly based in Munich. So more around UiPath. So for maybe some of you already know the company. So this is a global software company providing enterprise robotic process automation. So what we call RPA solution. That makes our hyper automation platform will be combining some RPA solution with a lot of products that would suit the company in order to participate in what we call the digital transformation of company, and to streamline a lot of tasks, improving productivity, and removing all the mundane tasks from employees in order for them to concentrate on added value tasks. So just few slides around that. This is the vision of our CEO, Daniel Dines, who said that we should give every person their own robot in order to remove this mundane task I've just mentioned. And from their day, that would bring them more joy in their work, and that person could be more productive and create more value for the enterprise. More on I will not go in details, but for you to know the history of the company that has been created. So started in 2005 with 10 people team based in Bucharest. This is a Romanian grounded company. And yeah, we launched many different products, many type of things in our history, and right now really to focus on delivering the fully automated enterprise. I just wanted to show you just this slide on our culture, because the culture is something very important to us. And this is something that we really remind each other every day. And that would be our North Stars for everyone. And this is our values. So being humble, to listen, learn, help, to be bold, challenge, seek, and explore. Immersed also on considering, reflecting, and imagine, and also be fast. So we act and we experiment, and we are quite fast company. We have about 40 plus offices, with a headquarter being in New York, but you can see that we are quite present everywhere. And this is what, just wanted to finish on that, what would be the fully automated enterprise with having some bots. So you see the one flying also around in my background. So we have a lot of visual around this. So we have some, we assign some bots like to take the repeatable work. And we would provide a robot for every person in the company to make sure that we empower the human workers and democratize also the development when having workers that can automate simple tasks with local apps, and also unleash artificial intelligence across every facet of the work. So that would be a small presentation around what we do.
Wow, that's fantastic. Thank you. Anyone have any questions for Marianne? So, you know, just to note, Gaetan, you're the CEO of this large global company, and Marianne, you're in HR. You're the head of the HR, right? You're the director there. And I'm just noting that because we do have diversity here. And so it not only global diversity, but also role diversity. And I think that that really matters. And I think that's something that we can all gain from. So as we share some of our experiences. So thank you for that. Jennifer, do you want to go next?
Sure. Good morning. I'm joining you all from California here out in San Francisco. Let me just move this to slideshow.
You are our most local person here.
Most local, yes, as close as possible. And I've known Frederick for quite some time. I've been certified in GRI even prior to joining Phil's Coffee. So I'm the Vice President of People and Culture for Phil's Coffee. And we're based out here in San Francisco, and we roast our coffee beans out in Oakland, which is just across the bay. Just a little bit about Phil's. We're a unique retailer coffee shop. We started in 1978. Phil Jaber, our founder, purchased a convenience store in sort of a pretty small neighborhood within San Francisco, pretty humble beginnings, and from Palestine. And he just had a passion for building community over a cup of coffee. And so we're considered part of the third wave coffee generation in the coffee industry. And we specialize in custom pour over coffee. So no lattes, no cappuccinos, just straight coffee, hand poured. And we make 1 cup at a time. So everything is in that 1 cup of coffee. And we do retail, wholesale, and online. So we have almost 70 stores nationwide between California, Illinois, and DC. And we roast our own beans out in Oakland, and we're headquartered in San Francisco. We have about 1,400 team members and continuing to expand about 12 to 14 new stores per year. Our probably employee team member profile is probably different than Mati and Gaetan's, in that most of our team members are between the age of 19 and say 22, they're baristas. And so we primarily use GRI for our senior level store leader folks versus exempt salaried team members. Yeah.
Great. And so what did you do before, Jen, before your...
Yeah, I met actually Frederick when I used to work for a hotel industry. So previously worked as an HR overseeing hotels nationwide and then internationally. And so we similarly use GRI, and then I brought it over when I joined Phil's.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Anyone have questions for Jennifer? Okay. Mati, last but not least.
Hello, everybody. My name is Matti Buccini. I am based in Newcastle, Delaware. I am a partner with a company called Atelier Fine Arts Services. And what we do is anything and everything related to art. So we store it. We have about 200,000 square feet or 20,000 square meters of warehouse space between Delaware, Philadelphia, and New York. We do crating, we do installation, we do transport. So it's a lot of operations and logistics and warehouse management. And I will share my screen so that I can show you what we do.
Matthew, your background that brings you to this place, what is that?
So my background is I knew Allison prior to knowing GRI, and I had approached her because we had what I thought was a very simple problem with a simple solution in one of our locations with more of a temperamental challenge in a department. And as we started unveiling the department, we started realizing there were it wasn't one person and it wasn't one department, and we needed more help. And so she introduced us to GRI because as a sort of a small, large company, and I'll give you a little bit of our history, but as a small, large company, we didn't have an HR team. Most of our staff, similar to Jen's, is young and on the road, driving trucks and working in museums and doing crating. And so the culture, while the company's 40 years old, the culture is a little bit still very sort of mom and pop. My relationship to Atelier started in 2013 when I met who is now my business partner. I was living in Delaware and looking for opportunities on going back to work. My background is in marketing and working in different corporations. And so I bought a warehouse with my partner and learned a lot about art storage prior to doing so. And so I was coming more from a structured corporate business side, and everybody else was a little bit more relaxed, low key, and just focused on the artwork. So it took a bit of educating, and it's still taking a little bit of educating. I'm not trying to change the culture of the company, but I'm also trying to help us act as adults. And GRI has helped us in giving us a structure and a vocabulary so that we can have these conversations. And I'll walk you quickly through how we got started. But basically, it started out in a garage in 1986, and we've been expanding since, expanding our wood shop, expanding our footprint in warehousing, and growing at a much faster cadence than we had in the first 15, 20 years. And so we work with a lot of museums and a lot of private collectors, and meaning to say that private collectors and museums typically in this industry have the highest standards. And so we keep those standards also so that the work we do is very detail oriented.
Thank you so much. Any questions for Matti? Okay, thanks. So, so I guess, you know, what's interesting, and Matti touched on it, is kind of like how and why the GRI, right? And I know that Jennifer, you're bringing in your history, so you've had experience with it, so that was kind of natural for you. But, you know, Gaetan, what about you? Why did you even consider using GRI? What was it about growth resources that excited you, or still excites you perhaps? And what was the solution, you know, that you were looking for?
Yeah. You know, 4 years ago, I was looking for a tool to help us in a transformational leadership program. We were, as many companies, in a transformational journey. Digitization was coming to replace or take some place, and before it was more physical. The group used to work with tools, you know, like 360-degree studies, MBTI, and other tools. I knew the GRI on a personal level from my friend Gerard, who is GRI consultant for France, and I decided to test it with my own team. We began with a seminar managed by Gerard, GRI consultant, around who are we as an individual and who are we as a team. I received different reactions. My HR manager was not really involved. It was too simple. Not enough serious, shall I say. But most of the operations directors were really impressed by the results, and they wanted to go deeper. As I was looking for a management tool, it was for me the most important public for me. We then decided to train the operational directors and add the GRI to our recruitment process at senior management level at the beginning. And so we trained 2 recruiters. Yes, that was the beginning. That was how we started. And Gerard, our consultant, has played an enormous role. And I tell you later the rest of the story. I mean.
You say, but you bring something up saying that you were looking for management tools.
Yeah.
Right. And so in terms of management, how are you utilizing this?
Oh, on a very simple way. For example, at the beginning, at the induction, we use it. We already have had a discussion based on GRI, and we use it at the beginning just to see how we are individuals. What do we have as a difference? I'm your boss. I have a profile different, perhaps like you, so I know that I have to do some effort just to understand me. That's one of the simple example.
Thank you. So Matti, when you talk about, you're a mom and pop shop, you're transition, you want to transition. So what is it that you want to change? What do you hope, what was your hope when you brought this in, and what is your ongoing hope for the future of what the GRI can provide for you, for the organization?
One of the hopes and goals for GRI is for us to have a common language to be able to assess our different teams and our different employees using the same tools and the same language and the same format. That was one thing that was very irregular in before we started using GRI, and how we did our annual reviews and our 6-month reviews. And so that has been very helpful. And also, I know that instinctively when we hire people, we know what their personality is like, especially in this industry, because we need everybody to be careful and data-driven. But GRI also gives us the background of and sort of the science to what our gut already tells us, and the interviews tell us, and the resumes tell us. Now we have, it's almost like having a third party that tells us that our instincts are right, and that what we're seeing in our employees is right or wrong. And it gives us a tool to be able to use it without making it personal at work, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Jennifer, you're shaking your head. Is that something that you also see?
Yeah, very, very similar to Matti in that, especially because we have quite a young employee group that may not be that tenured in their employment. I think when I joined Phil's, I think what's wonderful about Phil's is that it's an incredibly empathetic company and very people driven. But then with that, people use, like what Matti said, a lot of intuition in their decision making, and their emotions are kind of what drive how they make decisions. And so, using something like GRI gives them a little bit of sense of science behind why someone might behave a certain way, or what biases you might be bringing to the table. So I think it's both understanding the other person's behavior, but then also what we've been really nesting on is the reflection of your own behavior, and that is uniquely your own. As much as you think the whole world behaves as you do, it really does not. And that is a big epiphany, I think, for some of our young leaders, the idea that, gosh, not everybody is the same GRI profile as yourself. Even if it's similar, it still can look very different from a day-to-day basis. And how do you flex with that? And so that's been really fun to share with the team and have them have that eye-opening concept in the back of their mind. Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is that there's, we've each got our own lenses by which we're operating, right? So, we're communicating through this lens, and to have that awareness, right, is huge. It's key. So how can we manage others without understanding ourselves fully?
Yes.
Process, right? So what, when you think about solutions, your challenges that your organization had, Jennifer, what might they have been, or maybe they currently are, that you find GRI useful for?
I think the first is, I think what very many others are saying is that common language, right? So, when you use common vernacular, it helps desensitize you to perhaps some of the judgment around some of those words. So instead of saying like, gosh, you're so talkative, I really don't want to socialize right now, which sounds quite judgmental. You can say, gosh, you're really flexing that high two. I'm a low two. It's a little overwhelming for me, right? So it helps in that fashion. I was sharing with Frederick, we've used it actually most recently. We have a new module for managing conversations with employees, and we call it progressive conversations. And while we teach the 5-step model, the model starts with a reflection of diving deep into your own GRI. And how do you understand this model and your emotions behind the model based on your unique GRI? So I think it is still always going back to that sense of self-reflection first. I think that has to be the first place to start with, because unless, as you mentioned, deeply understand yourself and how you see the world, then it's very hard to be humble and sensitized to how someone else might see the world. So that's the main use that we're using it now, is with our leaders, and then really embedding it in every learning opportunity. So if we're talking about even something as tricky as sexual harassment, how would you approach sexual harassment in a claim like that based on your GRI versus based on someone else's, and how would you navigate that situation? So
right, because at the end of the day, it's always about the how, right? How someone comes to
perception. Yep, all of that. Absolutely.
Yeah. Marianne, is there anything different from what you've heard heard expressed here, that how you're using this, and what challenges this kind of helps you solve in your organization?
Yeah, for us, it was mainly when we started, it was back in 2019, we really searched for a tool that would be fast. So that was coming back to our values also, and maybe to what Gaëtan said, that maybe there was the idea it's too simple, too easy or something. For us, it was really like the focus, because it would be fast and easy to manage. And it was really about for us to focus on the team dynamics, and also on the team building, but also for the high potential, to make sure that at some point when we're going to have more like training and things to be around how to develop our high potential, we would always start with the GRI. So it was really for us to dive in, and what you said, also on the self-awareness. So it was an important factor for us. And we knew at that time that we would be scaling, having a lot, and we will accelerate a lot our growth. And that's why the GRI was really perfect to provide this support for us at this moment. Yeah,
so you use it for recruitment, quite a bit. Yeah.
So there was a part also, but mostly for us was on the team dynamics, and also on the high potential before they're starting some further learning and development.
Yeah, thank you. Is there anything that anyone would like to ask one another in terms of, how they're using it, what they're seeing, anything more, just because I think you might be able to learn from one another? I mean, I'd like to know what that bot is doing over your shoulder.
It's flying.
That might be going down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, I mean, I had a question. I would be very interested. How do you use the tool in some team dynamics? Do you have like already like a slides organized? Do you know exactly how you want to make people work together? Like very similar profile, like very different profile, to learn how they're gonna communicate around that. That would be very interesting for me to share best practices on that.
Yeah, thank you. Gaetan, Jennifer, Mati?
Perhaps in terms of process, we always use the same process when we want to use it as a just to make the group work together. But to be honest, we don't do that only by ourselves. Gerard is our consultant, is always there, but it's very important. Perhaps in another instance, when we have trained more people, we will be able to do that by ourselves. But we have seen that when Gerard is not there, we don't have the same impact. So it's important to use the same process to have the same results, and to use a common language between all our team. Yeah, that's what I can share.
Thank you.
For us, Marianne, we use a lot of the organization tools. So building out the organizational structure on the company side. So making sure the hierarchy is determined, who the manager is. So then when we have a team that we bring together, I can give them a snapshot of their org chart, either from the natural or the role. So even if they don't understand every dynamic and they're not trained in JIRA, they can at least look at the dots and the lines and realize the diversity in their group. And then once I have that complete, we usually do a little bit of a fun team builder where we look at an individual's profile and we talk about the strength in that profile before we reveal who it is. And so they really start thinking about, like, gosh, what is the value? What might this person be challenged with? What is difficult for that person? What might drive them crazy? What do they excel at? And then we say, like, gosh, who do you think this might be? And so it really helps you think of behavior, not person. And that's been sort of a fun way to introduce it. And then we do look at, when you do the comparisons and you look at the distribution, I think that's fascinating to look at the distribution. Myself, my team is all in one quadrant, slightly dispersed, but I'm always on the far other side. And so how does that dynamic play out? I think that's an interesting discussion. Yeah, so that's how we use it from a team perspective.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I love the guessing, and I use that also. And I say, how many do we have in that profile? I always make the team guessing. So I think it's also making fun.
Marianne, do you find that there's a variety of profiles, or do you see your organization kind of going in one direction or another?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think it's always what we are expecting to see. What's going to be the results? Do we have only one profile coming out for the go-to-market, or for the finance, or for how does it look? And actually, I think that's every time we see that we have very diverse profile, and it's what I appreciate, because as I said, I think it's like in nature, it's good to have a little bit of everything. Yeah. So I think it makes then the group being maybe at some point more in data driven, but sometimes we need more to have more social persons to combine. So I really think it's more diverse.
So you're able to increase your diversity as a result of looking at this. Is that what I'm
getting?
Sure.
Yeah, completely. Yeah.
Mati, what is your experience? In terms of?
The way we work is we set out teams on the road oftentimes based on personality and who gets along well, and also based on talent and skill. Sometimes, as you can imagine, we stick to what we know. And so the people that work well together are people that are very similar. And GRI allows us to mix it up a little bit more so that it's beyond skill and talent and experience. The teams are learning from each other on those sort of soft touches so that it's not just about the artwork being done, but growing each of them as individuals and as professionals within the organization, if that makes sense. And because of COVID, we have had to keep our teams somewhat limited and not continuously switching around. So this allows us to create the teams that are enhancing each other and growing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks. Perfect sense. Gaetan, you were talking about Gerard and his impact, and I'm wondering, I understand, you and the executive team, and then there's what about the directors and the impact that this training has had and the learning that's had on them?
Yeah, indeed, as I told you, we began with the executive committee with operational director. Before going to the director, we have also worked on our assumptions in terms of profiles by functions, and so our assumptions for the directors. It was very interesting and complete exercise. Then Jira has trained and certificate the operation directors, and then it was time for them to do the same seminars we did, but now with their own team. So regional directors and operational directors as manager with Jira or consultants. They didn't go all at the same speed, to be honest, but as the teams, the regional directors were spoken together about the tool, the demand was coming from below. And everyone had to follow and to be on the same level. So yeah, it was interesting to see. Then we also see that GRI allows us to go more quickly in depth in our recruitment interviews. As I told you, it then accelerates the inductions of new people with a better understanding of expectations, behaviors between managers and employees. Yeah, and that was something I wanted, something very important for me. You don't have the choice to speak about you with your colleague, and it was not the case before. So they know who they are, how they work, and as Jenny told us, you have to know your style of leadership, and then you can adapt your role to the profile of your employees. So, and I heard from my colleague, it's also true that it helps us to have a better mix of different profiles in our teams. We have a lot of same profiles in the same functions, and at the moment we are at this phase, transition phase, with all directors, and we have something like 15 people trained, certifications. 300 people have done the questionnaire, and so we are discussing with Jira, and we are ready to the next level, the office manager. We have more than 500 people as office managers, so yeah, big team to involve. And yeah, the final step will be our 2,000 consultants. It's I think we don't have the choice. We have to continue because everybody has heard something about it, and they want to play the game. So yeah, still some work to do.
Yeah, so that, trying to communicate this throughout an organization of that size is very challenging. I mean, even in a small organization like yours, Matti, right? It's extremely challenging. And so what I'm wondering about is, how do we actually embed this in our culture? How do we get it into the DNA or the fabric of our organizations? Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Curious.
Is the question for me?
Anyone.
Oh, okay.
I'm just having an organic conversation.
Yeah, just from my part, you need to take time. As I told you, it's for me the more important effect is that it's coming from below, from the employees, because they want to speak about themselves with their manager, and It depends. I'm Belgium. Perhaps it's easier in Belgium, but in France it's not so natural. So for me it's natural. It's easy, as we say it. It's quick. But then of course, if you want to touch everybody, it will take perhaps 4 or 5 years in my case.
Allison's frozen, so while she unfreezes, I will jump in. Our organization, as you heard, is smaller, and so what's helped us is,
Apparently, there is an issue with the internet here. So with Alison, can you hear me right now?
yes, we just
Yes,
kept
you can.
going. We
Well.
noticed that you were frozen.
Oh,
So
yes, I need to put the loudspeakers here for me. Sorry about that. I'm just taking over while during the time Alison can get back to you. Yeah, can you hear me?
yes.
Yes, okay, good. Yeah, and Mihai is helping here. So we're speaking about the implication in the organization of the deployments. Others can comment on that. Maybe Matti, you can comment.
Yeah,
Or
I
deploys.
I was commenting that our organization, as you heard, was smaller than some of the others that are here. And so what has also worked for us is finding ambassadors within the senior team, because the buy-in to use GRI wasn't across the board, everybody loved and let's keep going. So finding these key people that will really take the time and make the time to understand so that it becomes a tool for everybody to use was also essential for us. So that enough people refer to it and refer to it and refer to it, so that even if not everybody's convinced about using GRI, enough of us are, so that we, majority democratic.
Oh, okay. Well, apparently Alison is back. So I'm not sure she heard what you said, Matti, but she's going to take it from here. Okay. Yep.
Oh, God, that was painful. Sorry, guys. You hear me all right? All right, sorry about that. Gosh. Yeah, I think that, there was something that came through LinkedIn promoting this session. And I had made a comment last night about this, which was that, what happens is no one really, it's hard to deal with proactive, important issues in a lot of our emerging organizations, because there's never enough time, there's never enough staff. We're all racing around doing urgent things, right? And so what happens is we wind up not getting to these important things that could actually prevent some of these urgent matters that constantly come up, whether it's conflicts, whether it's, there's a slew of them, right? So, so I hear that, there's that kind of difficulty in pushing this through because, one would think, oh, well, it doesn't look like it directly affects the bottom line until it's actually integrated. And what I heard Gaetan say is that it takes time, like this integration, and actually the result, of having this within one's organization and the culture that develops as a result is of huge benefit, but it does take a long time. It's like steering this big ship, right? It just kind of, until you could do it really slowly. So I was listening also. I wanted to just say before I got cut off, Gaetan, that what I'm hearing from your people is that really what they're looking for is connection. And I think that what we're missing so often, especially in big organizations, is this sense of connection. But we're all hardwired for it, aren't we? So that we're always looking for this. And this is a way for our people to thrive within our organizations as they can connect more deeply with one another. And so that's what I hear in what you say, Gaetan, about, it coming from rising up from the bottom in a sense, So, yeah. So was there something that you wanted to say, Marianne? I had the sense that you did.
Yeah, I mean, it was just about the champion and how to make sure that we can really have that deployed within the company. So I think for us, it was really to the goal to train the HR business partner through the company to be certified, to be able at some point to lead some one-on-one session, but also some team session. And that took time also. I think it's everything around that. But after, since I took over, I think we have certified almost all of our HR business partner. And we really try to keep in touch. We have like a group where we can chat and exchange also best practices. So I'm always curious about how do you do some of the team dynamic session. And I've prepared also a deck to make sure that everyone has like with the logo and things like this. So it's something that we put in place. And since then, I only have like very positive feedback because we made also the appetite for the tool. We presented to the leadership team. I did it for my leaders so that they can deploy and go down with their things. And that I had so many sessions in the last month that shows me that it makes like a snowball effect. And we really made up also our leaders being also our ambassadors and champions and coming back and say, oh, I've got a new team member. Shall we do something around that? So really nice effect.
Yeah, and new member integration, all right, new
Yes.
employee,
Yeah.
new onboarding and such, yeah.
Completely, yeah.
Yeah, Jennifer, when you think about the management aspect, right, and how we use this in management, what resonates with you most? What are
Do
you
you mean
seeing?
specifically in managing others, or do you mean just
Yes.
general?
I mean managing others.
I mean, I think one of the comments that you made that resonated with me is, the value of this tool in an increasingly sort of virtual dispersed workplace. Phil's previously was all in one corporate office in San Francisco, but then of course, being a retailer, once COVID hit, we're all dispersed all over. So that speed to trust, I think, is particularly helpful when you're using the GRI early on, so you can socialize people quickly. So it's not like, gosh, Marion is not speaking on, the Zoom call. Why not? She's not engaged. There's this inherent judgment, but I happen to be a high two. So my natural inkling is to talk a lot. So I think that's particularly helpful from a management. I think what I do love about it right now, like Phil's mission is to better days, is that when we ask our managers to engage with people that similarly, that they're thoughtful about the other. So you really can only manage as effectively as you know yourself and the other person. You can't have a one size fits all blanket approach. And so just the tool in itself forces you to do that. There's really no other way to engage with GRI without getting that basic premise down. And so I think that is probably the first thing. And then I think the second part is really that it helps desensitize you, or maybe not desensitize you, but help you process your emotions a bit. Right. So if you're at polar opposites in styles with somebody, it can create a lot of angst, a lot of frustration. And so, we always say, like, take a pause, take a look at where perhaps your GRIs are not meshing. And perhaps it's something that maybe not, it may be something completely intentional and negative, but let's start there first. So I think those two pieces really help our teams a lot.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is, when you say desensitize, what I'm really hearing is that it helps people to regulate their emotions.
Yeah, I mean, that we've been really playing with that a lot at Phil's is, part of our management tool, we talk a lot about managing your emotions, that your emotions are one clue to how you feel, but it's not truth. And so the GRI helps you put a little bit of structure around that concept, which is super helpful. Yeah.
I'm just wondering from others, when I use the word manage, what I really think of is coaching, right? So I'm just wondering, is there anything, how do you all see this? I mean, when you think about how we use the GRI in terms of, our interactions, do you think about it in terms of management? Do you think about it in terms of coaching? Is there more that I'm missing? are they really interchangeable terms? What do you think? Matti?
I think they are interchangeable. I'm thinking, for instance, my review to our facilities director here, had I said, I'm frustrated because you're not delegating enough, it sounds awful, but having the GRI saying, I can show you scientifically that your personality is one that doesn't delegate, which is why you're in the job you're in, and we love you and value for it. But in order for you to grow, we need you to start delegating so that the team can grow with you. And so, and it was such a softer conversation. And so I don't know that I'm answering your question in terms of managing and coaching, but yes, it gives us this platform that makes it much easier to have those conversations without getting the personalities intertwined or the feelings intertwined. The other thing that it does, by knowing what moves people and what validates them, it's like this secret little weapon, even though it's open and they know what moves them and what, but you know, when I, even as I approach my business partner and I start thinking of what I need from him, I have this secret weapon that's not a secret at all, but I can direct him and direct the outcome a little bit more easily, knowing how to handle him. And I've known him for 10 years and, you know, but it can solve a lot of problems.
Yeah, mitigate them for sure. Yeah. Gaetan, what is your experience with this coaching style of management, or, you know, what are you thinking about?
You know, for me, management is at the beginning, be clear on what you attend. Yeah, your attentions, and then be sure that your employee has understood it, and then help him, and then GRI is coming in the help. Just when you discuss, and we have a lot of discussions with our people, of course, and when you discuss, be able to help him perhaps to use it. To use something differently, or to see it will be very difficult for him. We all are different. My friend Gerard always say, don't ask a fish to climb in the tree. So yeah, perhaps you are a very good guy. You have a lot of competencies, but perhaps not for this mission or these jobs. So it's the tool is coming in the moment of help, and to be able to tell to the people, okay, I know it's perhaps difficult for you. It will ask you more time. But we know together that it's a difficult point, and on another sorry, and we know that this point is very easy for you. So it's always a question of help, and the way we can help us, because we know each together.
Yeah, thank you. So anything more on this topic of coaching and GRI?
I mean, I like what you said, Allison, that I think that there is a difference in the terminology. So I think it is a subtle difference in terminology, but I think it's so impactful to think about the difference. So when we start our manager training, we ask them, like, who are the leaders that you've trusted in your organization? It's very rarely the person who managed your technical aspects and impact of your job on a daily basis, right? It's the one who was a fantastic coach that knew how to tap into your skills, that really would give you honest feedback in the way that you received it well. And so I really think that the GRI enables you to do that. And so we try to steer away from the technical term of management, especially because our team members are quite young. They, you know, that generation of 19 to 22 does not want to be managed as well.
Exactly.
So, right. The idea of like, hey, we're trying to help you meet your goals. Like, you might be a barista with us for a year, but our ability to coach you well are lifelong skills that you'll use if you become, you know, a doctor, a salesperson, or whatever you choose to do outside of Phil's. And so I think that is what's unique about our team members. They tend to only stay, you know, 80% of them tend to stay only about a year and a half. And so how do you make that time most impactful and not have them leave with the sense of, oh, if you go to Phil's, you're just going to be managed. And that's it, but to be a bit more aspirational.
Actually, Nati, you have got that same challenge, right?
Yes, we do. And we have a fair amount of turnover. So how do we make best use of everybody? Same as what Jen just said.
Yeah, exactly the same. And I think I would even add to what you just said, Jen, which is, mentoring, right? So there's a mentorship. There's that, and it all goes back. I don't know, it's my sense that it always goes back to this connection that everyone so craves, and in management, we're kind of putting, we're at arm's length from someone. And I think that we've got this opportunity, which is joyous and positive, right? Where we're really focused on strengths, where we're really focused on behaviors, not the person. And so, nothing personal, let's just say. So so I think it's a great opportunity. Anyway, so I was thinking, we do have some people in attendance, and I know some of the folks here today actually use GRI in their organizations, and I was thinking that we could use the Q&A to put out some questions from anyone who is in attendance here. Because I think it's really important that we all kind of get what we'd like out of this experience, what would serve us best. So if there's anything that anyone would like to, I think Adriana, in fact, I don't know if you can hear me, but I think there was something that maybe, you wanted to share, or that you might want to engage in or ask this panelist. Yeah, there she is. Hey, Adriana. Okay, good. So wasn't there something I recalled from having a conversation with Mihai about it, that perhaps, Mihai, could you help me with this? That Adriana wanted to share, perhaps? There she is.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. First of all, congratulations for this webinar and best practice sharing. It's very helpful, and I just want to briefly share with you my experience with the help of Mihai here in Romania. We have started using the GRI first for the top executive team, and we really looked at the team dynamic back in 2014 and again this year. But specifically, because I am managing the PMO department and strategic planning team, I wanted to make sure that we recruit the right profiles for this type of job, project managers, but also lean experts, because we have both roles in our team. I found that this GRI tool really confirmed some of the intuition I had for different profiles. So it's like Mati said, it's a scientific base for what you had an intuitive indication. And we even went beyond that by defining a target profile behavioral indicator, a PBI. And then whenever we recruit a person, we are able to see what's the gap versus the target profile. And it's really helpful. It let us work on the strengths and ensure that the gap is manageable, is easily handled by both the person being recruited, but also by the direct manager.
Adriana, are you in HR?
No, but I have a flavor for the HR, let's say. I used to manage big teams, and I'm passionate about leadership. Yeah. And being in a transversal role like PMO, it really needs to be able to know people, to influence, to find the right profiles, and then to recognize their contributions. So it's, I mean, between core functions, but my transversal role is very challenging and also interesting at the same time. GRI helps a lot, and I'm glad I had the chance to start using it with the support of our HR teams and Mihai directly.
Thanks so much. I see a question that's been raised, which is, did any of you, have you created an ideal, right, or typical profile for certain types of positions and then use it for staffing? Have you done that, Jen? Oh, Matti, I'm sorry, please.
I can speak to this. Well, before we had GRI, we were interviewing for a position, and on paper, we were very clear about what we needed. I didn't think that the person translated in person to what we needed and we were asking of this position, but it was purely gut and instinct, and we didn't have GRI, and it turned out to be a little bit of a disaster. But we didn't have that tool to assess her by, and we've paid the consequences.
Gaetan, what is your experience?
As I told you, it was for me, I think, the most interesting experience as a team when we did this exercise. We had, I think, 10 different opinions about the profile we needed. So yeah, it was extraordinary discussions, and we have done this job for 4 profile, two original director type, for process manager profile, and it's always been a very interesting discussion. And okay, we have done this 2 years ago, but now we keep we want all the team to make the same exercise.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the end, the results are the same. But it's so important to take 2-3 hours just to think about what we need. Yeah, it's for me best exercise.
Yeah, because it's just generating that conversation, right? Otherwise, you don't even think about having the conversation particularly. So the question is, do you see an ideal profile for a certain type of position? Do you actually use that? So for, let's say, outside sales, do you actually consider using that?
Yeah, at the end, we see with which profile you have most chance of success. Yeah, to be honest. But I also want mixed team. So
Sure.
so you need different people. So perhaps we will have 60% of the same profile, around the same profile, and then different people just to help.
Sure, for innovation, for the diversity, yeah. Jen, did you want to say something?
I was going to say, I think that similar to what Gaetan said, that there's a danger of establishing a definitive profile. I think doing the pro helps to ensure that there's alignment about what you're looking for in a job. But I think the most value comes from when you see a profile and you reference it against it and you see what their flex is, right? So, I think the beauty of the GRI is that there is that center chart that indicates, what role people can play. And so the expectation is, like, while you may have a natural disposition to behave in a certain way, there's also the expectation that you can flex with the role. And so I think it helps, particularly in interviewing. We've had a team member who had a very high 3, so very patient, steady, and in a fast growing company, that's quite challenging or concerning. And so then in the interview, you can ask more granular questions about, tell me just a little bit about when you've had to move fast. What did that exactly look like? Because me as a very, very low 3, very, very fast paced, I might say, like, do you enjoy working in a fast paced environment? And the generic answer could be like, yes, I love it. But our inherent definitions of fast paced and chaos is very different, and our threshold for it is different. So I think it's, you do see consistent patterns, say for accounting or sales, right? You see consistent patterns, but I think it's also you end up flexing based on whether they're very junior or very senior. So to what Maddie was saying, as you move up, you need to be more low 4 because you need to delegate more. And so, I think it will be career limiting if you say to folks, your GRI has to look like this at a certain place or a certain job.
Yeah, I think there's I think that's sound. Yeah. I see this question, and I'm going to direct this to you, Marian. It is directed predominantly to HR, but from your perspective, how would you sell, well, I'm going to use that terminology, the GR solution to your leadership team? In other words, yeah, what is your case that you're making for that?
Actually, first I will send them a link and do for them a GRI. I just use the practice, and usually it's working from itself. People are completely amazed and just, oh my God, just in this few moments, you just made that, and it's completely looking like myself, so I can find myself. And after that, they're really curious about their team. So as I said, it's less theory and really looking into the practical side, and just jump into it and ask for them for half an hour that I can show them how the tool is working.
Yeah. Was there anything else anyone wants to say about that? Maybe since Jennifer, you're also in HR, it was directed to HR, but it can be anyone, Gaetan, if you want to respond to that. How do you're the kind of person who naturally, Gaetan maybe, who naturally just gravitates to this, right? Because it's important to you. People are important to you. Yeah, go ahead.
From my point of view, I had to sell it to the HR. so we had the conversation with Jen and Marion. We said, for me, it's an HR team. For me, it's a management team, and the HR team told me it's too simple. Your tool. So yeah, most difficult was because I had to receive the green light. The HR label. We are an HR company, and I can't use this tool without the HR label. So it was the most difficult, but it was at the beginning, only beginning. But then when they use it, they told, okay, you are right. We have to use it.
Don't you like those words? You are right.
Beautiful words. I don't show you my profile, but yes, I like
it. So Christina asks, what was the situation in your business that triggered, saying, the pain points are high enough for me to go through this, for me to, spend the time, the money, and the energy to bring in a system like this. Mati, what about you?
Well, as I alluded to earlier, we thought it was one person in one department in one location. And because of this mom and pop type of business, there is very little structure to how senior management meets, and what those meetings are, and what is the agenda, and what are the goals, and the follow-up. And so GRI, even beyond GRI, going into GRI so that we can all sit at the table and look at it and understand it, has created a lot more structure to the company and a lot more communication that came about as a side benefit of just one conversation, two conversations, and now this routine. And so it's been really useful.
Yeah. So pain points. What Marian, if I go back to you, what caused this? Like, what was needed in the organization?
And for us, it was really about, we knew that we'll be like scaling, like very fast. And we really needed it was one side to have so many new people, but at some point we had to make sure we grow them, we make them like moving on the learning path and growing with the company. So we really needed something to have them to support our teams, and it was as mentioned, like really on the team dynamics and on the high potential, because we knew that we will have to build up the strategy around this, and we needed a tool to make sure that first, before we start all this learning process, we have this self-awareness through the GRI to make a kind of the start of the beginning of the learning journey. It's really how we implemented that at the beginning.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing from you is it's kind of foundational. You know,
Yes.
you set this groundwork and this foundation that everything else can be built upon, perhaps. Yeah. So thank you for this. I will continue to field any questions that anyone has. And in this last 20 minutes of the meeting, what I'd like to do is I'd like to understand, you know, a little bit more about integration and deployment, because we would like to share best practices, certainly, and also, you know, what might get in the way of our being better for you and better for one another. You know, as I'm seeing, you know, you sitting around this small circle, I'm thinking, gosh, this would be so great if all of our stakeholders could actually get together in some kind of a forum where you could exchange ideas and, you know, have this opportunity. So that's one of the things that occurs to me as I'm having this experience with you. But, you know, obviously you are our stakeholders, right? And we strive to be the best we can possibly be for you. And this is, you know, a pretty new company and with new challenges as a result of COVID. You know, we did everything in person before. We had these big manuals, you know, we structured things quite differently in terms of the learnings. And so we would love to get some, you know, understanding from you how we can be better or could be better moving into the future for you. So I think that, you know, I'd love to hear more about that. In terms of, you know, the company at large, perhaps. So, Gaetan, would you like to say anything or share anything with us?
Well, perhaps two things. First, on implementation, I think that we need ambassadors. You know, at the beginning, okay, I was coming with my tool, then put it on the table, let's play together. But then, okay, and it was very important to have 1, then 2, 3 operational directors. And I'm not the ambassador anymore. They are. Okay. But they are still managing the community. They know if the contact with our consultants. So that's for me very important. That's the team's tool and not my tool. And then if I understood well your question, there were so what can I attend from you when it's becoming a tool on a large level like I wanted to do. Of course, I want continuity.
Okay.
We have a short discussion with Gerard Frederic on that. Or can I assure me that you still will be there in 1, 2, 3 years?
Okay.
Yeah, and then how shall you help me to have a community inside? So I want to have I need to have my own consultant. It's important also, and that of course continuity with a certain level of price, but I don't think it's a good place to discuss this.
Okay. So the assurance that we're going to be here, that we're lasting, and that perhaps that we're evolving. Yeah.
Yeah. Of course.
Okay. Thank you. Matti, did you want to jump in?
I think one of the challenges we had in the rollout of GRI is doing it on Zoom, and what works? How long should the session be? How often should they be? When do we start, we kept them, I think it was every week to every 2 weeks for 3 hours. And so more than 3 hours was hard, but not having us at the table at the same time was definitely challenging, because people were doing their homework at different paces. We were showing up, some of us prepared, some of us unprepared. And so for as many benefits as doing the training on Zoom brings, it also, yeah, certainly, as everything else.
It's a
It had-
challenge.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah. Marianne, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, sorry.
I was just gonna say, how could we do better for you? Currently, in the past, moving forward?
I mean, I don't really know because I had really a great service. I can really say that with Mihai, there was a really great partnership. It was always helping me when I had like question, like technical one, but also more like on the philosophy, how to do so. So he's helping to organize a lot of the certification. I mean, he's taking that over and it's really well organized and very easy for my colleagues who's going to be certified. So hard to say because for me it was a great service.
Yeah, you had a lot of support. Yeah.
Yes.
George, I see your hand is up. George is a board member. And so Frederick, do you want to introduce George?
Oh, he can introduce himself.
You want to introduce yourself, George?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Hi, it's a delight to be on, with you this morning. And I just want to say great insights by this group of panelists and just a really interesting conversation hearing your experiences. So I've been involved with GRI for 15 years. I'm a Silicon Valley CEO here in the Valley. I've done 4 technology companies. I've built 4 companies with over 5 billion in cumulative revenues, and I've done an IPO with JP Morgan, run a public company. And I work with probably about 30 or 40 entrepreneurs as an advisor in different ways. I just wanted to comment that GRI has been a powerful management tool for me at a very high level. And so it's very, very holistic across the board as a tool to optimize staff interactions and management interactions. So the way I've thought about GRI is it's an optimization tool for the entire organization. And it starts with our ability to hire people that are aligned with us and where we understand what's under the hood as opposed to what their apparent resume is. And it goes even further in terms of enabling us to understand each other between peer executives, between subordinates and management, or between staff people. And so for me, it's been a powerful tool for understanding each other. And based on that, working in a way and in a style that takes advantage of strengths and also helps me understand, let's call it weaknesses or tendencies of staff. The one thing, and I just want to use one example and then I'll step back, but there's one executive for me who was very talented, but didn't always have the urgency of having the fire under them when I was really in a high acceleration mode. And so I would press the person more and more when I needed the intensity and urgency on specific projects or tasks. But anyway, nothing happened. And so there's no change in performance with the added intensity. So anyway, when I finally went back to the GRI, it just showed me the person only operated at 50 miles an hour. And that was the maximum speed, but they were very steady and reliable. And it changed my attitude. Instead of being angry that they weren't performing better, it made me understand where to use them and how. And also the fact that it didn't matter if I tried to put more pressure on it, they were who they were. So it's just kind of an example. And then the last thing is that everyone in all my companies has taken the GRI and used it, and it's transparent. So in other words, I've shown everybody in my company my profile, and they understand what makes me tick and what some of my nuances are and why I do things. And so at any rate, just in summary, for me, it's a powerful management tool for the entire organization. And the benefit is that it optimizes the interactions and taps into strengths, and also gives better understanding of for weaknesses or blind spots for people. So anyway, I want to thank the panel for doing such a great job this morning.
Thank you. Thanks so much. You know, what I just heard you say is you made yourself vulnerable as a leader, George. You know, because you've opened up yourself to others in this process, right?
For me, I don't think of it as vulnerability. It's just being very open and very transparent. And this is who we are, and let's engage.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. So any other questions? I know that we just we've got I know I opened things up, and then George came in, and I'm so happy that he did, because he's had a really long tenure with us. So but is there anything else that anyone would like to add to or ask before we close? Because we've got about, I don't know, 7 more minutes or so. Sorry?
Christian has a question.
Huh?
Christian's has a question, so I may invite Christian to.
An additional question?
Yeah,
Okay,
from Christian.
great. So Christian, you have a question?
You can speak or.
Yeah, he can speak.
Okay, hello.
There you are.
Wrote the question, which was, did you intentionally compare the executive committee profiles with what was the direction of the culture, the type of culture you wanted to create as a next step? Maybe you have some words on that. Thank you.
So let me just make sure I have this right. So the question is about culture. Is that right, Christian?
Yes, and then at one stage you have a certain mix of executive committee profiles, and obviously they are critical for driving the company in a certain direction when you talk about culture. So was there any intentional work done in that sense?
Okay. Would anyone like to speak to that? Gaetan, did you get what he's asking?
To be honest, I'm not sure I understood well the question. So I'm not sure we give the good response.
I can give it a shot, Allison.
Okay, thanks, Jennifer.
I think when we, Christian, when we did all of our leader profiles, what was overwhelming actually company-wide was a low 2, so more analytical, nature, thoughtful, and a high 4. So a very scientific approach to getting work done. And even if you shortly look at our YouTube videos or our social media presence, it's a very youthful, outgoing, diverse company, you know, and so our team members, when they join our company, are looking for that, just this very warm and engaged, outgoing, playful nature, because even the design elements of our stores are like that, a very casual kind of anti large name brand company coffee. And so there is a disconnect oftentimes when our leaders go out to the stores, because when they go to the stores, they're looking for operational efficiencies and they're communicating quite succinctly. So they walk into a store like, gosh, your food case is off, or wow, the quality of the coffee is not on par. And so for a young team member who's looking for that more high 2 experience and low 4, almost the reverse, it can be quite a shock to engage with that. So, you know, I think even just showing our founder son, Jacob, who was running our company, that dynamic of look at sort of the plethora of team members on your leadership team that are low 2, high 4. And let's look at what the employment brand is like and how there's a distinct divide. And Frederick knows this because he could see all of them, that my profile is a high 2, low 4. And so for me, even personally engaging with our company, it was like, gosh, it sort of threw me off a bit. And so we've really pivoted a bit to hiring more leaders that are that high 2 dynamic, and also teaching more deliberately what it looks like to be high 2. So even one of my HR leaders is a low 2, high 4. And I said, I really need you to be out and connecting with the team members. And he was like, I don't actually know what you mean by that. And so I said, great, go to Costco, buy a bunch of fun treats. And then when you go to the store, just chit chat and ask these 3 questions. Like, tell me how you got to Phil's, tell me what you love about Phil's. And then like, what's your favorite treat? That will instantly give him the rules of looking like a high 2. So I do think, understanding what your employment brand is and what culture you would like to see, and understanding and reconciling that against sort of the majority profiles or each individual and mapping that, I think it is particularly helpful.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is that creating a cultural, right, a cultural profile is essential, right, in your organization, and then working with that. I just want to one last question before I just see this posted, and I want to make sure that we don't eliminate anyone. Jean-Michel asks, you've all been certified, right? How would you, on a scale from 1 to 5, 5 being the most autonomous and 1 being the least autonomous, how would you rate your autonomy or independence in using the GRI without the help of an external consultant? So 5 being, I've got it, right away as a result of this certification, and 1 being, I really still need help. So quick go round. Marianne, you.
I think I would go very quickly to a 4 and doing some kind of training and then going with a 5 very quickly.
Okay, thank you. Jennifer?
I mean, I think it probably depends on your GRI. So I'm a low 4. So I'm like, it's great. It's fine. I can figure it out. And Frederick is, was down the street from me, so I could ask him quick questions. But I think the tool is very intuitive in that way. And I think you get what you invest. And so the tools are there. And so if you invest in it, I think you can do it quite independently. So yeah, I would say it's a 5 in terms of intuitively understanding the tool if you put the work into it. There are sometimes maybe little parts of the technology that I have questions on, like how to actually logistically manipulate the tool. But that's the only thing that I predominantly had questions on.
Thank you. Matti, between 1 and 5, what would you give it?
I would say probably a 4. And what I did before getting certified, when we were doing the coaching, the training, I would keep a running tally of questions, just sort of coming prepared for the next session, so that instead of calling Allison 10 times during the week, I'd be like, all right, here are my questions, so that everything could be answered efficiently.
Thank you. Gaetan?
I would say between 3 and 4. I still need the general consultant just to organize a seminar, to manage the seminar.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, well, thank you very much. I would just like to do a quick round of gratitude. Thank you so much, Marian. It was such a pleasure to have you. I know that for those of you, and Gaetan coming in from Europe, it's late. And we thank you so much for your time and for your effort. Jennifer, thank you for being a longtime supporter of this process and supporting Fred through all of this. And Matti, thanks for being the newest person here on this panel. You've really taken this on and taken this charge, and I appreciate this. So I'm going to close it now, and I hope that we can stay connected to one another moving forward. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
Thank you for.
Bye-bye.